Every summer, millions of drivers sit in their cars, sweating through their shirts, blasting the AC, and wondering why it still feels like they're inside a hairdryer. They assume that's just how it is, that their car's air conditioning has already maxed out. But what if I told you there's a method so simple, so overlooked, that it can make your AC feel twice as cold without buying a single part or visiting a mechanic? Imagine this. You open your door on a blistering afternoon, expecting that familiar wave of oven heat, but instead, within moments, you're breathing crisp, frosty air like you've just stepped into a walk-in freezer. The best part? It's not a gimmick. It's based on how your car's AC actually works. And once you try it, you'll never go back to doing it the old way. The only question is, how much icy comfort have you been missing out on all these years? The very first step to getting that ice-cold blast doesn't even involve pressing the AC button, and almost no one realizes how much it matters. When your car has been sitting in the sun, it turns into a rolling greenhouse. The interior doesn't just match the outside temperature. It can spike 40 to 50 degrees higher. So if it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside, you might be stepping into a cabin that's a suffocating 140 degrees Fahrenheit or more. That's hot enough to make your seatbelt buckle burn your fingers and your steering wheel feel like a frying pan. Now here's where most drivers make their biggest mistake. They slide into the seat, twist the key, and instantly blast the AC on full power, hoping for relief. But what actually happens? For the first minute or two, your AC is just fighting to push that trapped, superheated air straight into your face and around the cabin. It's like trying to cool a boiling pot of water with a tiny fan. It's a losing battle. Instead, you want to give your AC a fighting chance. Before you even think about cooling, focus on purging the heat. Roll down every window, even the rear ones, and if your car has a sunroof, crack it open too. Let the stifling air rush out, and if you can, start moving right away so fresh air is pulled in and the heat escapes faster. That airflow will flush out the oven-like air in seconds. Think of it like opening the oven door before trying to cool it down. You're removing the problem before applying the solution. And here's the part most people miss. By doing this, you're not just making yourself comfortable faster. You're also taking stress off the AC system itself, which means colder air sooner, less strain on your compressor, and even a small boost to fuel efficiency over time. Once you've let that heat escape, then it's time to hit the AC. The difference is night and day. You go from, it's kind of working, to why does it feel like winter in here, in under a minute. And this is just the warm-up, literally. The next step takes this to an entirely different level. Now that you've cleared out the sauna trapped inside your car, it's time to make sure it never gets that bad in the first place. And no, this doesn't mean you have to fight other drivers for the one shady spot at the grocery store, although that definitely helps. The real trick is to think of your car's interior like a cooler. The less heat that gets in, the less work your AC has to do when you fire it up. Parking in full sun can turn your dashboard into a giant heat sink, soaking up the sun's energy all day, and then radiating it back into the cabin the moment you get inside. That's why the seats feel like hot coals, and the air takes forever to cool. But if you block that sunlight before it even gets in, whether it's under a tree, in a parking garage, or by using a reflective windshield visor, you're cutting down the temperature inside by dozens of degrees before you even open the door. Even something as simple as turning your car around so the front faces away from the sun can help. Why? Because your windshield is the single biggest entry point for heat. The less direct sunlight it gets, the less your AC has to fight later. If you really want to take it up a notch, crack the windows just a hair when you park. It allows trapped heat to escape and stops the air from reaching that brutal, suffocating temperature that makes you dread getting back inside. Do these small things, and your AC goes from starting at a disadvantage to starting with a head start. It's the difference between sprinting uphill and jogging downhill. You'll feel the cold air faster, and your system will run more efficiently. But this is just the prep work. The next step is where most people's AC problems are hiding, and they don't even realize it until it's fixed. You've given your AC a head start, but if the air coming out still feels weak, there's a silent culprit that's choking your system, and it's sitting just inches from your face. I'm talking about your cabin air filter. Most drivers barely think about it, but over time, this little filter collects dust, pollen, leaves, and even bits of road debris until it's practically a wall blocking airflow. When that happens, your AC can be running at full blast, but the air coming through the vents is reduced, and worse, it's not as cold as it should be. Think of it like trying to drink through a straw that's half clogged. You can suck as hard as you want, but you're not getting much out. The good news? This is one of the easiest fixes you can do yourself. In most cars, the cabin filter is hidden behind the glove box or under the dashboard. Slide it out, and you might be shocked at how dirty it is. If it's coated in black dust, stuffed with dried leaves, or just smells musty, it's time to replace it. A fresh filter restores proper airflow, which means the cold air your AC is making actually reaches you instead of dying in the vents. And here's a bonus. Swapping it out takes less than 5 minutes and usually costs less than a tank of gas. That's a small price for a noticeable jump in cooling power. Once the airflow is fixed, we can move on to a trick that changes how your AC works mid-drive. And when done right, it can drop the temperature inside your car even faster. Now that your AC can breathe properly, it's time to use it in a way that most drivers never think about. But once you do, you'll wonder why you didn't start sooner. It's the fresh air. Then, recirculation method. Here's why it works. Your AC has 2 modes, one that pulls air from outside the car, and one that recirculates the air already inside. When you first start driving on a hot day, the air outside is almost always cooler than the air trapped in your cabin, even if it's still warm. By starting with the fresh air setting, you're letting the system replace that leftover hot cabin air with whatever's outside. This gives your AC a clean slate to work with. Once the cabin temperature drops a bit, that's when you hit the recirculation button. From that point on, the AC is cooling air that's already been chilled, which is far easier and far faster than cooling air from scratch. The result? The temperature inside drops noticeably quicker, and you're not overworking the system. It's a small change, but it can be the difference between feeling sort of comfortable after 10 minutes and feeling icy cold in half the time. And if you think that's effective, wait until you see what happens when we deal with the one part of your AC system that's taking a beating every single time you drive. Your AC can only be as good as its ability to get rid of heat, and that job falls on a part most drivers never see. The condenser. It sits right at the front of your car, usually just behind the grille, and every time you drive, it's taking a beating from dust, dirt, bugs, leaves, and road grime. Over time, that buildup acts like a blanket, trapping heat and forcing your AC to work twice as hard just to get the air mildly cool. Think of it like trying to chill a drink in a cooler that's sitting in direct sunlight with the lid half open. It's fighting a losing battle. But here's the good news. Cleaning your condenser is surprisingly easy. You don't need to take the whole front of the car apart. Just pop the hood, locate the condenser. It looks like a smaller, thinner radiator, and gently spray it with a garden hose from the outside in. If it's really dirty, use compressed air or a dedicated coil cleaner to break down stubborn grime. Not only will this help your AC blow colder, but it also extends the life of the system by preventing overheating. And if you really want to push things to the next level, some cars can even benefit from installing or activating an electric pusher fan to pull more air across the condenser when you're idling in traffic. With the condenser clean and breathing freely, you've removed one of the biggest hidden obstacles to cold air. But there's one last step that can make or break your results, and it's the one people often skip until their AC stops working altogether. Even with perfect airflow and a clean condenser, your AC can't deliver that ice-cold punch if it's running low on refrigerant, the lifeblood of the entire system. When refrigerant levels drop, usually from tiny leaks that develop over time, the system loses its ability to pull heat out of the air. The result? You get a weak, lukewarm breeze instead of the cold blast you're chasing. A lot of drivers grab one of those quick AC recharge cans from the auto parts store and call it a day. While they can work temporarily, they're really just a band-aid. If your refrigerant is low, it means there's a leak somewhere, and unless you fix it, you'll be topping it up again and again. Worse, overcharging the system with too much refrigerant can actually reduce cooling efficiency and even damage the compressor. The smart move is to have the system properly checked with a set of AC gauges, either at home, if you've got the tools, or by a professional. A proper recharge to the correct pressure after fixing any leaks will have your system running at its absolute best. And here's the kicker. With all the steps we've covered so far, this final piece can take your AC from pretty good to I need to turn it down because it's freezing in here. Do all of this, and you're not just making your AC colder, you're extending its life, improving efficiency, and making every drive in summer a whole lot more bearable. But when you put them all together, that's when you see just how close you can get to doubling that cold. So here's the game plan. Start by flushing out the trapped heat before you even touch the AC. Park smart and block as much sunlight as possible so your system isn't starting from behind. Swap out that clogged cabin filter. so the cold air can actually reach you. Use the fresh air. Then, recirculate trick to drop the temperature faster. Keep your condenser clean so it can dump heat efficiently, and make sure your refrigerant levels are spot on, with no leaks holding you back. On their own, each of these steps will give you a noticeable boost, but stack them together, and the difference is night and day. Your AC will work less, last longer, and most importantly, it'll feel like you're driving with winter riding shotgun, even in the middle of summer. So the next time you step into your car on a scorching day, don't just crank the AC and hope for the best. Make it work smarter, because once you feel that freezer blast cold, you'll never settle for just okay air again.